So in the short time that we have left, my question for all of you is, imagine that you're helping the Westside Community Alliance set an agenda. So this isn't just about getting volunteers, students to volunteer and having engaged experiences on the West Side. But just think very large, broad scale, and very briefly, what's the big thing, the one big thing you'd like the Westside Communities Alliance to do going forward to address quality of life in the West Side?
Think about health. If you don't have health, you don't have anything else. And again, it's the baby steps. Any walking clubs around here? Stuff like that. Let's start with health.
I think from my perspective, I think they're already doing it, but I think there's always more work to be done. As a person who works in the nonprofit arena, I think a lot of times there seems to be a lot of duplication of efforts, and I think we would benefit from working together in a more cohesive strategic plan or attack on certain issues. We would benefit more from that than working separately in silos. So I like the idea of sharing information, sort of pulling together the pieces so we could all have one string going, and we would have a bigger impact on certain issues and moving the agenda forward than we would working separately.
Before I pass the mic down, let's just stay here for a second. So in terms of coordination, we're talking across all the institutions, and are you saying that maybe a data set of all indicators for the West Side might be a useful thing, and a strategic plan for that would coordinate activity across the different institutions would be useful?
I don't know if I can say for sure if a data set is what it is, but I think there needs to be more something. Funders are asking for it. I think on the flip side, people are asking for it because I think it presents confusion among the people we serve when they hear from very different groups who all talk about the same thing. I think we sort of see it at the food bank. I mean, actually my position came about just to dedicate someone to do this. So it's not a food bank project that I'm doing per se. They wanted someone to be able who could spend their time, which it's hard for other organizations who don't have resources to do that, to make sure that all the people are at the table to work on this one issue of improving fresh and healthy foods. And it's not really meant to be a project or something new that we're starting. It's meant for me to coordinate and make sure that I know all the people and then find where there are the holes so that we can address those and then help support those who are doing the work already. So just, I guess, creating a space for that to happen, whether a data set comes out of it, whether some sort of meeting, or at least people being aware of who else is there so that I don't leave anyone out whose work could contribute to the cause.
Hope y'all are taking notes.
What came to mind for me was, as we start talking about these neighborhoods and the potential that they have, what we know is, I think we can all agree that the foundation of a great neighborhood, a great community, are the schools. And you know, this particular side of town right now is experiencing a lot of changes that are impacting children right now. Not 5 years down the road, but like today. And so what I would love to see is people to be able to really convene their groups, their affiliations, their universities and colleges together to come up with a strategic plan that really addresses the future of the children in this area of town, and in particular, making sure that there's a vertical alignment and it makes sense what we're offering. I think that the children here deserve better opportunities, and that is a conversation that I think has to begin before any conversation. And we've been a part of a lot of community meetings where it seems like the focus is on development and everything else. But honestly, if we can't really talk about stabilizing our schools, stabilizing the leadership in the schools, in this particular cluster of schools, there are more interim principals, and we know without stable leadership, you cannot have a stable school. So I really could go on and on about that, but I won't. I'll just stop there. And then I would like to add a real practical piece of advice that I could give you is when you start looking at partnering in particular with the schools, the public schools here, you should really go to the schools and the principals and ask them what they need. And so oftentimes I think what happens is we have all the best intentions in the world and we have all these ideas and hey, I was in this karate class and it changed my life and I want to do karate. And so, you know, it may have been great for you, but this is, you know, a different community and every community is a living organism and every community is different. And so I think that when we go to the schools, we need to ask them what it is that we can bring to the table that will support them, who it is that we can serve, because I know oftentimes we come into the community and we serve the best students, and it's like the top 10 or 15%. And it's really important to get our hands dirty and work with the kids, you know, like Maceo that needed that support. This is a prime example of why it's absolutely worth our efforts.
One of the issues I think that we can work better on is the relationship between, you know, the colleges and the universities and the young people within the community. And within the community, one thing I think that is significant about me and Chuck's relationship was the trust that I have in him, and you know, to allow him to introduce me to, you know, Georgia State and, you know, the people at the Crim Center. That allowed me to, you know, blossom into, you know, doing great things. And I feel like that's what we're missing, those relationships, that trust. Because in order for you to, you know, in order for you to allow somebody to introduce you to somebody else, you gotta trust them and you gotta believe that it's gonna work. And we miss that a lot of times. We don't have them people that's in the colleges, because a lot of times I talk to a lot of kids that go to Clark, and I be like, I'm from, you know, the English Avenue community, and they don't know nothing about it, and it's right up the street. So I feel like we got to create that bond and create that trust with our young people in our community, so, you know, we can introduce them to the opportunities that they need to be introduced to, and that's it.
So in the few minutes that we have left, I wanted to open the floor for at least 2 questions for this panel.
We have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
Him?
Yeah.
All right. The young man,
Barely.
you inspire me so much because it's the generation you're facing right now that needs to hear exactly what you're saying. Because it's your generation we're looking at. So I'm so happy to hear that you connected with the college institutions and students. You all need to pay attention to what he's saying. Because that shows you there's a gap and disconnect between you and us. We need to bridge that gap. That's all he's saying. So I like to thank you for that, because in all of this, what we said, that's the most important to me. The connection that needs to be made. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Mason, I want to follow back up with you too. What kind of support do you need in terms of the mentoring program that you created in the community, and how are you working through it? Whether do you have a place you need? How is that working? And Chuck Barlow, what college is he affiliated?
He got a good connection with Georgia State. That's the only college that I know about, you know, right now for sure. But other than that, you know, we just need those collective resources, because a lot of times we don't have those collective resources. And you know, I can go out here by myself and I can do this by myself, but if we don't have the community as a collective whole, we really back to square one. Because, you know, you have a community where some people believe and the neighbor don't believe, you know, in the, you know, the system that's going on around. So, you know, we just gotta come together collectively so we can, you know, push our young people and have a common goal. And that's the problem. That's the only problem that I see.
I think we have time for one more. There's a question back here.
My question is directed to all 4 of y'all, kind of.
we got the health resources, we got a lot of the mentoring resources, but how do we get those people in the community who we're trying to reach to recognize and then utilize those resources? Like the mother who's bringing her child into school, how do we show her, we got this mentor for your child, take use of that?
Why don't we start down here with Mona?
The other end.
First, you know, the mother got to understand the importance of the mentoring program. If she don't, cherish the mentor program, why would the child cherish the mentoring program? So the mother got to have an understanding, and you know, she got to be the one that put the child into place, into the right place, so that he can be around the right people. So you know, that's the type of relationship that I feel needs to go on.
For us, I think the biggest piece of advice I can give you is to go into the community and meet the people. When we recruit students for our program, we walk in the community. We know where our students live. We're talking to people, so we get recommendations or referrals from neighbors. We go up to people's doors and say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we can offer your child. So I think best thing I can say to you is that for us, go into the community, you will meet people, and you'll meet plenty of people who will be willing to say yes to the services. And to Mona's point, sometimes people aren't quite ready, but you'll find plenty that will say yes.
I think it's also understanding who you're serving. So never assume as the reason why people aren't taking advantage of the service is that maybe they don't want it. It may not be that. There may be other barriers that you also have to take care of in order to make it easy for them to take advantage of your service. So you kind of have to make sure you clear off all of those things first. So when I did taxes or other stuff, I try to make sure it was near public transportation, like you do, hours that work with them, not hours that work for you. Places that people would already like to go, so that sort of takes you taking time to put yourself in their shoes, and then I think people will. But there'll always be a certain level of people who won't see the value in it or want to take advantage of it, but don't let that discourage you, because the ones that you do help, it is so much more important for them and they appreciate it. So focus on that, and you know, meeting people where they are, and think that they will come along eventually. And then just as a sidebar overall, I will say, I went to a Jesuit college that focused on service, and so never underestimate the value of the service that you bring to the community or when you work or do projects. It's all experience. I would say my greatest qualification for the job when I first came to the food bank had nothing to do with any of my paid positions, and possibly not even my education. It was something I did as a volunteer. So it's all experience, and especially in a downturn job market. So definitely take advantage of your opportunities to engage and fully participate in these programs when you have times to be out into the community and get hands-on experience beyond your classroom.
Oh my, she took most of what I would have said. Let's see, to wrap it up, make your services low threshold. All the stuff she talked about, remove any barriers. Can people get there easily? Does it fit their schedule? Talk to each other and talk to somebody. Tell somebody about your services. Offer them early, often, and well.
And as a moderator, I'm going to take a little privilege and answer the question myself. One thing, based on just picking up on what Cicely said, as happy as I am to see all of you, I'm a little disappointed I don't see Ms. Wallace here. Some of you know who she is. When I was working in the community, she wasn't a client or a charity case. I considered her a friend. And so I think that to answer your question, this isn't just about, it's easier to think about people's needs if you're actually seeing them as people. If you're actually seeing them as friends, as human beings, as full human beings. And so it's not about kind of extracting a story for them, getting a publication, getting a grant, kind of moving on with your life. It's actually about the person. And how you would treat your friends is how you should be engaging the people in the communities that you interact with. And that makes it much easier. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it makes it easier when you just treat them as you would your friends and loved ones, because that's actually who they are. So with that, we actually have to take the break to switch to the other panel. I want to thank everyone up here for their words and their voices, and we'll see you in about 5 minutes.